Okay, this is a little tutorial on how to use the Canon Rebel XT, and we're going to talk about the different settings that we'll dial here and talk about those a little bit. But first, let's start with the most basic thing, how to turn the camera on. This little switch here, flip that up so it's on, and then off, on. Okay. Now while you're using it, there's a chance that it may turn off on you automatically to save energy. The way you can tell whether or not the camera is on or not is look at that little screen back there. This one, it will have numbers and so forth if it's on. This one will not. That's just to look at the pictures and so forth and to change settings. Okay, now if by chance it does do that, if it does shut off on its own, obviously it can't flip the switch, and so it's going to look like it's on up here, but you'll be able to see from here that it's off, and you'll try to take a picture, nothing will happen. All you have to do is flip it off and flip it back on, and it'll come back on. And so you don't have to freak out, oh, it's not working, nothing's going on, it says it's on. You just flip it off, flip it back on, and it'll work again. Okay, and so the second most important thing is how to actually take the picture. Here is the shutter button right there. So it's gonna, you try to just push the shutter and it'll just take the picture. And it'll show it to you for about 2 seconds, and then if you push this right here, this little button next to the blue play button right there, you can see it. See the pictures you've just taken, and if you want to see ones you've taken before that, then you go to these right and left buttons and just go back. Now that's the only photo on my camera right now that I've just taken. So now one of the things that you're going to want to keep in mind with and this is similar with almost all digital photography, is that in order for it to focus you need to push it halfway, like just push it softly, push it halfway, and it's looking for it. Right? Now I'm pointed too close to the screen, and so it can't focus, and that's why it won't take the picture. If I'm like, what's going on? I won't take the picture. It could be because I'm too close to the screen or too close to the subject. You'll know when it's in focus because it'll do a little beep beep. There we go. You hear that little. That means it's in focus. I'm just pushing it over and over so you can hear it. There. Once you get that little beep beep, then you know it's in focus. Now, unlike point and shoots, the Canon will not show what it's seeing on here. There are some Canon cameras that can do that. This is not one of them, and it's just not as common with SLR photography, which is single lens reflex photography, which is what this is, the whole setup and everything. It's not as common to have that visible. People still look into the eyepiece for SLR photography more often. And so you do have to put it over your eye to look in it. And while you're doing that, you will be able to tell when you're in focus, not only from the beep, but because there's a little red dot in there that will blink, and that's so that you can see it. Because there are ways you can turn the beep beep off if you don't want that noise, and you just see the red dot. Anyway, so that's basically how you take the picture. You'll find your subject, zoom in like this. It will focus on its own, but you'll want to zoom in. You zoom by turning this back and forth. Okay, that's for different zoom. This is zoomed in all the way, that's zoomed out all the way. And so you'll want to adjust it to get it how you want it. And then once you got the size in, you half push it down, and as soon as it beeps, then you can squeeze it the rest of the way, and there you've got your picture, see? And I'm going to push this for it to show up. There we go. A little play button again. There's my nice little office plants. Okay, so, and then if I want to see the other pictures that I've taken, the one other, then I flip the right and left. Let's see, there's only 2. The other thing is the settings up here at the top. So we're going to set this, okay, these different settings here. That green setting is just fully automatic. It means the camera is going to figure everything, and if it thinks it needs the flash, it'll flip the flash open. If it doesn't think it needs the flash, it won't. Okay, and then all these ones up at the top, these are the manual settings. So that means that in order to use these, you have to have a little bit of knowledge of the camera and digital photography, how it works, in order to be able to function very well with those, because it's going to expect you to do some things aside from just point and shoot. These ones at the bottom here are all the automatic settings. Any one of those, it will basically figure what needs to be done to get a good picture. But different settings within that, each little box has specialties, has different things that it specializes in, okay? The green there, like I said, is means that it's completely automatic. It'll just figure what it needs to do. You don't have to worry about anything, but it's not going to specialize in anything. Okay, you flip to that little face there. That's the portrait setting. That tries to make the background out of focus and the foreground in focus. Okay, so a lot of people like to use that because it blurs the background a little bit more and makes a sharper foreground image. Like if the person's standing in front of you that you're taking a picture of, you're there in focus, but the background is not. The one difficulty with that setting is that it kind of figures that you're not going to be moving a lot, so it may blur a little bit easier. Now that's not always the case, but sometimes. So that's something to keep in mind. If it's a lot of fast action, that may not be the best setting for you. You know, like a sports game or something like that. This one is, I believe this one's night setting. A little mountain with a star by it. If it's going to be really low lighting, this one tries to adjust for that. And may keep the shutter open a little bit longer. Again, blur risk, but that's, yeah, that's what that's for. This one is for really close-up shots. It's a little flower thing. It's called macro. It's for taking really close-ups of stuff. You know, if you're getting a picture of a bug or something. That little running guy, that is for fast action shots. Okay, so it'll try to get the fastest. It'll try to stop it if you're having a lot of motion and so forth. It will try to stop it, and so that it's not blurry at all. So if you're getting a lot of blurry, you can try that. But it will still adjust, and it can be blurry still if it's really low lighting or so, and so forth. But it tries to get a fast action. This one, not completely sure what it does. The little light with the star or whatever. I think it's for if you've got a really bright background and you're trying to get a picture of somebody, like say with a sunset behind them. You don't want them to be a silhouette, and so it tries to keep the lighting focused on around the subject in the center. And then this one is the one that I like to use the most if I'm going automatic. It's no flash. That just means it figures everything it needs to out. You know, the only thing that it won't do is it won't use the flash. So if it's really dark, it may keep the shutter open longer. It'll turn the ISO up, which that's a different subject, ISO, but it'll basically adjust everything so that it can get the best picture possible without the flash, which is nice because sometimes the flash really looks ugly. And yet if the flash does look okay, you know, if the results of the flash look okay, use any of these other settings because they will involve the flash if the camera thinks it's necessary. So that's the basics of the camera. If you really feel intimidated by it all, if you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, just keep it on the green setting. Have that little white dot by the green setting.